Okay, so let's start this from scratch. I'm going to go to File, New, make a document that is 7 inches by 5 inches, 72 resolution. And I'm going to bring a background in by going to File, Place Embedded. File, Place Embedded. Now notice the stage appears to be slightly smaller than my background. There's a little bit of a gap on the left and the right side. Should I stretch this to fill up the gap? The answer is yes and no. One, if the photo were indeed too small for my background, I would definitely say no. But if I look up here at the top of the screen, I can see the width of my stage is 32.89% and the height is 32.89%. So we are not viewing the stage at full 100%. So that means we can stretch it until we reach full 100%. But if I were to click on the edges here and click and drag to stretch, the resulting picture would appear squished. Watch. Stretch, stretch. See how squished that looks? And now up at the top of the screen, the width is 35% and the height is 32%. So we've distorted the image. I'm going to Command Z to undo, and then Alt Command Z to undo again. Alt Command Z. Alt Command Z. Bring that in again. So after I bring the stage in, I'm not going to resize it by clicking on the edge and squishing it. I'm going to hold down the Shift button and click on the corner. I'm going to click on the corner, not the edge. The corner, not the edge. And I'm going to hold down the Shift button and click and drag at a diagonal angle from the corner. And same for this other side. I'm going to hold down the Shift button and click and drag at a diagonal angle from the corner, not the edge. And now I'm going to check my sizes up at the top of the screen, and as you can see, my width is now 35.64 and my height is 35.64. We want the height and the width to always be exactly the same, so your image does not appear squished. If at any point, for whatever reason, your image, the width and the height changes on your image, and your width is bigger than your height, then you can go in here directly and you can retype the percentages. So I'll just make this 36. And now hit Enter. So you can go ahead and retype the width and height. Just make sure the width and heights always stay exactly the same. I'm going to make a new layer, hit Enter, Return to place my image, and now I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. I'll place this guy in here. We want to shrink him down so he fits on the stage. So I'm going to hold down the Shift button. Hold down the Shift button. Write this down, guys. Hold down the Shift button. And I'm going to click on the corner, not the edge, the corner, and I'm just going to click and drag at a diagonal angle, continuing to hold the Shift button as I let go. And I'm going to place this capybara right in the center of the stage. And I'm going to hit Enter or Return. Now I'm going to hit File, Place Embedded. And now we'll find a hat picture. And now we're going to resize this one as well. I'm going to hold down the Shift button. I'm going to click and drag at a diagonal angle. I'll place this hat on his head. Enter or Return to place. And now I'll bring in a briefcase. Now I'm going to hold down the shift button, click and drag at a diagonal angle. Hit the letter V and place. Now I'm going to Command plus sign to zoom in, and we are going to use the tools that we have learned, the masking tools that we've learned. We're going to use them to cut out these images. So this box has only straight edges, so it's going to be ideal for the polygon lasso tool, okay? So I'm going to go to my lasso tools, and I'm going to select the polygon lasso tool. And you have a number of options at the top of the screen. We're going to start with the new selection option, which is just the box that's by itself. And as I'm making the selection, I'm going to stay inside the outline of the box. It will make for a cleaner looking cut. Okay, I have completely enclosed this box in an outline, and the problem is there's this little white triangle underneath the handle of the box that I need to cut out as well. So I'm going to go to the subtract from selection icon up at the top of the screen, the subtract from selection icon. And ta-da, so now I have made a nice clean selection just around this box. And now I can turn this selection into a mask by going down to the bottom of the layer panel and clicking on the square with the circle inside of it. Ta-da! Next, I'm going to use the pen tool for the hat. So first thing, really important, I need to click on the hat layer. I need to make sure that the hat layer is selected. And I know it's selected because it's blue over here in the layer panel. Next, I'm going to go to the pen tool. I'm going to make sure that path is selected. And now we're going to remember the rules. Click on 2 points to make a straight line. Click and drag to make a curved line. Click and drag to make a curved line. Click and drag to make a curved line. Click. Click and drag. Click and drag. Click and drag. So I've completely outlined this hat using the path tool. And now I can click on the Make Selection button up at the top of the screen. Next, I'm going to click on the square with the circle inside of it at the bottom of the layer panel. And I can hit the letter V, and I can move this hat into place like so. So then the final thing is the capybara himself. I have to cut him out. And it's a little bit troublesome to see the other images overlapping him. So I'm going to turn the eyeball off on the hat layer and the box layer so I can just pay attention to him by himself. And I'm going to use the quick mask tool to cut him out. So I'm going to go to my brush tool. I'll hit D to make sure that I'm painting with the default black and white colors. I'll hit X until I make sure that black is my foreground color. I want to make sure that my opacity is at 100%, my flow is at 100%, and I want to make sure my blending mode is on normal. And I also want to make sure that my brush is on maximum hardness, 100% hardness. Next, write this down, guys. Step 1 with the quick mask. Hit Q for quick mask. If you are painting and nothing's happening, that's because you accidentally might have also hit X when you hit the Q. So notice that white is my foreground color. So I'm going to hit X again, and now black is my foreground color, and now I can paint with that red color, right? And what I want to do is start large, so paint in huge. You know, use a large brush first. Remember, you can use your bracket keys on your keyboard next to the letter P. Bracket, 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 until you're painting large. And then you can do the details nice and small. So shrink my brush size down. And just shrink your brush size down, use the brackets to get all those little details. And then after you've completely painted in that animal all red, you can turn that quick mask into a selection by hitting the letter Q one more time. Oop, you know, I didn't get all of this nose. So now I'm going to hit Q one more time, and we'll notice that everything except for the capybara got selected. So we need to invert our selection. And to do that, we're going to hit Shift Command I, Shift Command I to invert the selection. And then I'm going to turn the selection into a mask by clicking the square with a circle inside of it at the bottom of the layer panel. So now we can put the hat back on him, we can put the box back in, and we're part way done. We want to now do a little finessing with the lighting to make the lighting all match together. And by the way, any questions at this point about anything that I've gone over? Okay, great. So a really great way to make shading underneath your subject is, I'm just going to click on the stage. The stage is the background, and I'm going to make a layer above the stage by clicking on the new layer icon or Shift Command N. And I'm going to use a nice soft brush. So I'm going to change my brush hardness down to 0. And I'll increase the size of my brush. And now watch this. I'm just painting with black underneath the subject. Now this does not look realistic at all, obviously. And part one, because of the perspective. So I'm going to squish the shadow so it looks elongated in the same way that you would see a shadow in real life. So I'm going to hit Command T. Write that down. Command T allows you to transform things. And I'm going to click on the edge here and I'm going to squish it, right? I said not to squish pictures, but shadows you can squish. I see I'm squishing it, and I'm helping to make that shadow look elongated and in perspective. And I don't want that shadow to be quite so dark, so I'm going to lower the opacity. right? So you just have a nice little shadow underneath him. And now I'm going to show you another. So Amber was asking, what does Command T do again? Command T allows you to transform or resize something. Command T brings up the bounding box, and then you can click on the edges or the corners and resize something. Now you can also change the color of any of the objects in your composition using something called a layer mask. Now notice I have the topmost layer, which is the box selected. Let's say I want to change that box to green. I want to change the whole color of that box to green. So I'm going to go click on that box. I'm going to go down to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of the layer panel. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on Hue Saturation. I'm going to click on the Hue Saturation Adjustment layer. And now watch this. If I click on Colorize and I increase the saturation, I can change that box from red to green. But the problem is everything in my composition has now been changed to green, right? But I just want the box changed. That's where a clipping mask comes in. A clipping mask allows you to add a layer just to the layer that's directly beneath it. So watch, I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option button on my keyboard. I'm going to hover over the line between hue, saturation, and the box until you'll see my cursor kind of makes a downward pointing arrow now. And now I'm going to click. Alt or Option and click. So see, now just the box is green. So Amber, what I'm doing right now is I'm showing you how you can change the color of one object in your composition without affecting the other objects. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is I'll show you how to change the color of just the hat. So here, now my box, it's on the Hue Saturation Adjustment layer. I can change my box to whatever color I want, right? I can change it to blue if I wanted. So I'll do the same thing for the hat. I'm going to change the hat to red, okay? Now watch closely, Amber. Step one, I'm going to click on the hat layer. Step two, I'm going to go down to the Hue Saturation Adjustment layer, which is the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other, at the bottom of the layer panel. Get rid of properties here really quick. And I'm going to click on Hue Saturation. Next, I'm going to click on Colorize. And I'll increase the saturation and see now the hat is red. But unfortunately, not only is the hat red, but the entire composition is red. So I want to change it so that just the hat is red. And I'm going to do that by holding down the Alt or Option key at the, so I'm holding down Alt or Option and I'm clicking on the line between Hue Saturation and the hat. And don't worry, I'm going to go over it one more time. Okay, so step one, click on the hat layer. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom of the layers panel, and there's a circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And I would just recommend drawing in your notes a picture of that circle. Looks like a little yin yang symbol at the bottom of the layer panel. And I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click Hue Saturation. Hue Saturation. Then you can click Colorize, and you can increase the saturation. And then You can hold down the Alt or Option button at the bottom of your layer panel. And then click on the line between hue saturation and the hat layer. Hold down the Alt or Option button and click on the line between hue saturation and the hat layer. And what that does is it creates a clipping mask. So now I can change the color of the hat to anything that I wanted, and nothing else in my composition is going to change. Now I'll hit X to make that go away. Okay, now you can continue to finesse your composition, apply filters, apply vignettes, apply other effects that can make your composition more interesting. So the first thing I'll show you guys is a vignette, which is really easy. And a vignette is just a way to darken the corners to help to create more of a focal point. So you want to start by clicking on your topmost layer and then clicking on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of your layer panel. So you want to click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of your layer panel. And then click on the word gradient. Next, where it says style, we're going to change it to radial gradient, and you'll click on reverse. And I'm going to increase the scale. And now see how nice this looks? It just kind of has a nice, the corners are dark. Okay, I'm going to do that one more time, Amber. Hit delete. Step one, are you with me, Amber? Okay. Click on your topmost layer. Are you with me? Are you still with me? And then you're going to click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. And then you're going to click on gradient. Are you still with me? You're going to click on gradient. Now, where it says style linear, you're going to change it to style radial. And then you're going to click on reverse. And if you want, you can take a screenshot of my settings there by hitting Shift-Command-4. And yes, Shad, all of your class lectures for all of your classes are always going to be posted on YouTube. And then where it says scale, you're going to increase the scale. And then when you're done, you can hit OK, and you have a nice gradient. In this case, it's a nice vignette. So before, after, before, after. And finally, another thing that you can do to your design is add a photo filter over everything. And you can do that by going to the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of the layer panel. And then scrolling down to photo filter. And then you can use any of the filters here and apply them, increase the density if you wish, and apply them to your design. Photo filter. And so to add a photo filter, You just click on the circle that's light on one side, dark on the other at the bottom of the layer panel. And then click on Photo Filter. And then you can choose any filter that you want, adjust the density any way that you want, and then you can apply that photo filter to your design. Okay, now really important, saving. This is really essential that you write the process for saving your images. It is essential that you write this down, because this needs to be submitted as a JPEG, okay? This needs to be submitted as a JPEG. But we also need to save our native file format for our capstone class. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save it as the native file format first. File, Save As, you'll click on your desktop. And remember, this is all from week 1. You'll browse to your DES104 schoolwork folder. And you're going to name this DES104 underscore week 3 underscore your name .psd. That's the native file format. .psd is the native file format. Yes, and you should always save it as a Photoshop document first, and then save it as a JPEG. No E in the JPEG. No E in the JPEG. Now we're going to save it as the JPEG for the gradebook. So we're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. This is exactly like we did in week 1, and this is exactly like we did in week 2. Same exact steps. We're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. Up here, we're going to change the setting to JPEG, JPEG High. And then we're going to hit Save. And then we're going to hit Save.